just another short talk on the distribution of prime numbers, but I'm going to start by talking about how the creator of this world, how he cannot create evil. Because it's easy to look at the world and say, look, there's so much bad everywhere, there's so much evil everywhere, and there is. There is. But this evil, it's really because of a limitation in perception. There's no evil in God. So what he does is in order for evil to appear, is to create a being and then limit the perception of that being. That is the that's how human perception is formed. Perception is limited deliberately, it's almost like, and based on that limited perception, you can see things that don't make sense, things that you keep they keep inviting you to a pattern that is really deep within existence. They keep luring you there with one insight here, one insight there, but people can't get a full picture of what is really going on. What is existence? What is the nature of existence? Where does it come from? How does it get to be here? Who created it? These are the questions that are disturbing every human being on this planet, whether they are aware of it or they are not. Doesn't matter. People have several type of band-aids for these as answers to these questions. Religion provides a big band-aid. Why? Because in that kind of uncertainty, that kind of not knowing, then it becomes an extension of belief. What do you choose to believe? And since human beings have this desire for meaning, that's because of how we possess something called self-awareness. Self-awareness is the search for meaning. We want to see what is really happening. We want to know what existence truly is. But somehow we're limited from that perception. It is in that frame of being that we can perceive evil in the world. We can perceive, because it's not just a perception of evil, it's the actual, because what you do is intimately tied to what you perceive. Cause and effect. When things become very complex, like in organized complexity, cause and effect become strange things to talk about because it's hard to tell what caused what or what gave rise to what, because the system is so integrated. But that's not the way we run the things that we build. The things that we build today in engineering, using the knowledge available, they're not integrated stuff. We can always separate them. We can always delink them. We put the pieces together, literally. You see, how they are put together is not a mystery. Okay, maybe if you want to talk of some uh, deep learning algorithms and the way that they behave, yes, it's easy to write some rules, but to see how those rules actually interact and integrate, it can be very hard. But that's because when you come to deep learning, that's why most people, when they get to deep learning, artificial intelligence, they already know something is coming. They can feel that there's something deep about what they're doing. Well, I mean, why is artificial intelligence? It's almost as if we're exploring deeper and deeper insights into how existence came to be, to the point where people actually believe that the world is actually a type of existence. It's like a simulation. That's because they can intuit that this is so close to reality. They can feel they're drawn to this because it helps them satisfy those deep questions that every human being has. So being able to see how integrated everything is, that is where human insight, that's where, because it's our consciousness that is doing that. So, and the only reason why we can do that is because the limitation is fading. And then we begin to see the interconnection between so many things, eventually between everything. And once we do that, peace comes. Because now um, you're no longer confused. You, most of us don't realize how much of ourselves is devoted to the big questions. It disturbs people more than others, you know. I mean, it unsettles everybody's soul. Some people find a settlement that they can live with in religion. Some people find it in other areas. But that is what everyone is looking for, the absolute meaning of existence. Okay? There are also a lot of philosophical variations to this question. The absolute meaning of the universe is that there's no meaning, there's only life, make the best of it, and all that. These are memes because they may be clever, they may hold a whiff of truth, but they do not satisfy intrinsically. What the soul is looking for is not a meme, it's looking for something so deep it collapses infinitely often. It's looking, it's looking for the truth. And that truth is revolves around, because that's the realization we're in today. We're in a realization where we have been trained for to believe in evidence as a way of constructing, you know, the physical reality. So people want to, the way people realize things today, very different from the way they realized them a long time ago. Okay, so it's harder now. You see, because what is being created is an actual physical world being built up. So it's harder. It requires the kind of knowing that brings confidence to the mind, to awareness at that point. So when it comes to this area, this kind of understanding or realization today, mathematics is what does it. When you describe a problem mathematically and generate a structure, a mathematical structure that describes a physical phenomenon, you can now the certainty of that can now be applied to the physical world in engineering. That's what gives people the confidence to build jetliners 30,000 feet above the earth. It's confidence. It's knowing that as an engineering problem, as a problem of theory and engineering, nobody questions it. Everybody just takes the plane and, you know, you'll go to a different country. That is the level of knowing that is needed to begin to begin to lift the limitation on awareness. Because at the end of the day, the creator of this universe, if he's nothing else, right? One of the labels you can use clearly is that he's a mathematician, not a mathematician, a geometrician. Because the physical sciences are full of theories. These are established perceptions of the nature of the world. But like the old problem of, you know, just the same way we build things, we put them together. So these theories have been built in different areas, of understanding, different areas of perception, different areas of realization. What does it all mean? Has it become sufficiently dense enough to be able to see a global behavior in all these theories? Doesn't matter where you look, from engineering to the physical sciences to, psychology, astronomy to cosmology to quantum mechanics. Is it possible to glimpse a global structure that should, in a sense, satisfy the desire for this meaning, truth? Well, that depends on how much of the entire structure you've taken into your mind. In my own realizations, geometry is the one thing that everything in existence has in common is the geometry underlying it. The geometry. You can ask yourself where geometry comes from. Underlying geometry is a conception of number. Where do numbers come from? Numbers are relational perceptions. They're in order to define meaning, the basic structure of meaning comes from what I call fundamental concepts. In a sense, they're actually prescriptive knowledge spaces, as defined in my book, The Five Principles of Organized Complexity. But in my book, I call them motives, motivic operators, because they are the things that we scramble around at the most fundamental level of our perception, of our awareness. We scramble them around in order to build a picture of the world. So there are some that's where our intuition for mathematics or numbers comes from. Because we have the ability to be able to understand the regenerative order or the regenerative potential of numerical orders, magnitude, size. It's the way we measure space, the way we perceive space, the way we perceive time. It is from the emergence of that nature of perception. That is where our numerical ability comes from. And we use that to model the world. Now, surprisingly, when we use those same relational orders, numbers, to measure the physical world which we perceive as external of us, we begin to perceive higher level orders, not just random stuff. There's structure there. There's a pattern, a distinct pattern, which you can pick out with a formula. So, or which you can approximate with a formula, because, I don't want to go into all that right now. So this congruence is what tells us that there is, because that congruence between what we can observe and how reality actually behaves, that congruence is, it's learning, you see. But that congruence also tells us that it invites us we begin to believe that there must be a higher order structure. So it is a way to expand our thinking, and it has actually expanded the world. It has expanded the world. Science and technology, knowing, learning, understanding, it has expanded the world. It therefore makes sense, right, to then begin to intuit that the geometric nature of existence must come from somewhere. And if there's anywhere it is going to come from, it's going to come from these fundamental concepts. Because of the synchronicity of the pairing between, or the congruence between the our own learning system and the physical or the universe's learning system. If there's a synchronicity achieved, meaning that being able to predict aspects of nature, that's what measures the synchronicity, right? Being able to predict behavior of things. Because that means that you're seeing the rules clearly, or you're seeing the formulas clearly. And the entire nature of existence, the existence itself, the way everything comes together, that's God. What, you know, what the entirety of existence is, no matter what part of existence you're talking about. I know we've divided existence into all sorts of compartmentalized areas now. I'm talking about the unity of all the compartments, you see, what it all means. The overall meaning is God. And once you know the overall meaning of existence to a point where you are certain, mathematically, it's proven, then whether people want to or not, whether they believe it or not, whether they come, it's like gradually everybody comes to take it as given. Nobody questions it anymore. It is now accepted to a very deep level, and then that stubborn thing that hassles the soul, that's actually what makes the vision limited, because the soul is disturbed. It's constantly querying because you don't know everything. You don't know what everything looks like. You don't know what it is. And yet you're in it and you're making choices, making decisions. How do you know what you're doing is good? How do you know what you're doing is bad? This is the kind of being that God created to be able to perceive evil. Otherwise, if you take, and because of that perception of evil, we can assume a containment of self-awareness. Because the evil is generated by the boundary. So the boundary is what stops us from seeing all of God. At least the way that he appears. Because what he really, his essence is a completely moot point, because unknowable and unknown. But like how he is expresses as the birth of awareness, or as the birth of existence. Existence just captures it as like a canvas. It is from that we rise. It's the process of birth. The child, sperm, ovum, and the womb get together, spark, existence begins. Nature gets to building a central nervous system that can behold a perspective. That's really what it is. The similarity for all of this is that it is the same geometrical constraint that is imposed on the developing embryo, which is also imposed on a rotating spiral galaxy. The same geometry, they have to solve the same type of problems, have to work with nothing. So their goal is to absolutely optimize the most efficient structures possible. That's the goal that they seek. And whenever you try to do that, whenever you look for a space feeling, it's the same way, it's the same reason why you look at the Nautilus shell. These are energy optimization problems. And they're optimization problems that are pushed to the absolute limit. So what naturally emerges is the structure capable of satisfying this minimization problem. And that structure is an equiangular spiral for growing things. Things that need to grow, rearrange themselves spatially over time. What emerges is a perfect equiangular spiral. The more the larger your global picture, the more this spiral emerges. It's perfect. Now, that same spiral, that is what projects our experience, our existence, our awareness. Because it is a spiral that builds all of organized complexity. Every time they need to solve a problem, the solution is a spiral. Some type of spiral. It must, even on small levels or great levels, but the idea is the way they all come together. And that brings me to the distribution of prime numbers. Because if the fundamental concepts of our experience are numerical, or the way we see them, the way we interpret them, because of our reliance, our understanding of space and time, are perceived as numerical, then it only makes sense that whatever structures are contained in the numerical space, the entire set of numerics, of numbers, the infinite set, it's somehow at the base of our experience, of our awareness. And when you look into natural numbers, the densest part of these natural numbers are, in the whole number, the natural number set, they're the prime numbers, because from them you can generate all the other numbers. So knowing where they are gives you the structure of numerics, the structure of numbers. Why are numbers important? I mean, we've already gone through that. But how this shows up in physical existence, it shows up in the way things grow. Because the prime numbers are growing. The even numbers are growing. The odd numbers are growing. The number system is just one. It's because our existence grows. The growth of our existence, we perceive it as what? Transformations in space and time. Space-time. But space-time is numerical. Without it, you don't even know what to say about it. So the entire number system is all about growth. The way things grow. Now, the distribution of the way the prime where each prime number is, that is the structure to support all the logic that is contained within an infinite set of natural numbers. So whatever the real structure behind the number system is, that is the distribution of prime numbers. So that distribution can mimic any type of system possible that needs to grow in a natural, organic way, the way that nature grows things. Which means that, I mean, you don't get to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you jump to 1,000. No, the sequence is literally perfect. So what you're actually looking at the distribution of prime number is the most optimized form of sustainable growth possible. So things that need to grow, they need to grow like this in order to be sustainable. If they don't grow this way, they'll become unsustainable. Unsustainability is the perception of limitation because you can't